right, if you just joined us, you're still on to Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get to our conversation for today. Former presidential aspirant and presiding overseer of the Lagos-based global community Citadel Church, Pastor Tunde Bakare, has warned that under President Bola Tinubu, Nigeria risks a popular uprising unless the administration changes course on security and the economy. Addressing worshippers during his Easter State of the Nation broadcast in Ikeja, the former APC presidential aspirant said the country is being driven towards the brink amid a fresh wave of killings in Plateau, Benue, and Enugu states. He argued that Nigeria demands a Joseph-type of visionaries, not motor park politics. Bakere said fellow citizens, at the center of this political banditry is the motor park brand of politics nurtured by the old Brigade politicians and in recent times by President Bola Tinubu. Those responsible for steering the course of our nation lack the humility and character this moment demands, he said. What we have seen since the beginning of the year is a descent into tyranny and a brazen abuse of power. Bakare, who ran against Tinubu for the APC ticket in the 2022 race, said the economic pain unleashed by fuel subsidy removal, Naira devaluation, and runaway inflation is pushing citizens to the brink. Now let's have our talk for today, and I still have with me Barrister Vansu Feli. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for being here.
My pleasure.
All right, so just before we get into our conversation, I think it's very important that we, get into maybe just hearing some excerpts from what Tunde Bakare had said. So if we have it, let's get to listen to what he has said. Let's take a listen.
Since that admonition in January, I've shown that those responsible for steering the course of our nation lack the humility and the character this moment demands of leaders. Instead, what we have seen since the beginning of the year is a descent into tyranny and a brazen abuse of power. Those entrusted with power appear determined to destabilize what is left of our political institutions and have committed themselves to obliterating the guardrails of constitutional governance. From the theater of the absurd, staged in Rivers State, with puppets on strings controlled by directors in Abuja, to the dance of shame performed by the National Assembly in their rush to suspend the Constitution and endorse through the back door the usurpation of powers by President Bola Tinubu from the Senate shameless bid.
All right, so that was just a little bit of what he said in a 2-hour long broadcast he had made to not just his church but to the nation, which I would love to believe is good. I think we should at least give flowers to the Bakare for at least speaking out at a time like this. But I'd love you to flesh that out. What do you make of everything he has said?
Yeah, I think it was in our program last week in the Middlemen that I raised the issue that by now he ought to be speaking, because as at the time Jonathan was leading the country in 2012, he led a protest against the issue of the subsidy and all that in 2012, and it was a far-reaching one. So I called for his intervention again, because I think he has a moral justification to do what he's doing. He has a moral burden to do what he's doing. And I'm glad he's discharging that moral function, because all through Buhari's tenure, things had gone this bad. He never spoke. He never spoke, and he was vilified. He was, but now he's speaking. He's speaking truth to power. Okay, because nobody can fault what he has said so far. I mean, the National Assembly has been captured completely. They are now using their powers under Section 88 and 89 against the people, against what they are supposed to do. Their oversight function, they are not using it the way they are supposed to use it. Okay, the president declared a state of emergency, suspended a governor that's not recognized in the constitution, and they went ahead to rubber stamp it. Okay, look at the case of Natasha. Okay, just look at the way the president is leading the country. Okay, he's in and out of the country. He has so mismanaged the country to the point where he himself cannot even live in the country. And you have a National Assembly that ought to, you know, check the president's actions. So what Tunde Bakare is doing is discharging his moral burden to speak truth to power and call them to order. Okay, because it's not just him. We analysts, we are doing that every day. We have said that this man cannot lead anybody. Now, this is not the way to even lead goats. You don't have any vintage of love, compassion, and you say you want to lead. How are you going to do that? So this call is timeless. Everyone got a fair share of the bullets from the National Assembly to the presidency to even the Nigerian persons, the Nigerian people. Okay, this is the time to change this entire madness. This madness that is going on. This is the time to change it. This is the time for the president to sit upright and govern properly. And stop using the constitution to play politics. Or stop employing extra constitutional means to govern. By messing around with the lives of the people. You see, all through last year, all the policies and decisions taken were wrong policies. But because they don't have the character, like he said, and the humility to, you know, come to square with their errors and wrongs, they are rather telling you that the president is jetting out to go and work remotely. You know, they are telling you that the economy is growing. You hear things like Tinubu is repositioning Nigeria. I don't get it. I don't get it at all, because Jonathan that they criticize, you know, it's not long ago they won't stop blaming Jonathan. The whole of Buhari regime, they were calling the previous government, until after 8 years. Now they have been back on another journey again. We have not seen it this bad, even under PDP. We know that PDP is also not a good party, but with its worthlessness, we did not see this kind of, I mean, in 2 years, everybody impoverished at the same time, in the same frequency, to the point where a deputy state governor, you know, was crying out that the power bill they are sending to him is too much. That is a serving deputy governor of a state in Nigeria. What then happens to the poor? And this is someone who, this is a bill that will be taken care of by government. Okay? How about the poor that they don't even know where the next meal is coming from? They have nothing to eat. They have no means of sustenance. What would those ones do? Or what would they say? So anytime you lead the people to the point where you drag everybody to the floor, so that everybody becomes impoverished, there is no moral justification. You don't have any justification. Say whether you are working remotely or you are working physically, whether you are working from anywhere, you have no business leading anybody in the first place.
You know, it's actually very, very true. You know, when you said when leadership drags everyone to the floor, and it's so very synonymous to what Bakere has said, that what Bola Tinubu is playing is motor parks politics, which is similar to what we see today in Lagos State, unfortunately. But the presidential media handlers, Daniel Bola, had said that what Bakere said is objective, but he does not agree with some aspect of it. Remember, the same Daniel Bola is someone who had said on national television that give Bola Tinubu 30 years, that he is not sure he would reposition this country.
Yes, I had been on the same show with Daniel Bola, is my friend on Channels TV when we debated on an issue on law and then, and the way with which he attacked Tinubu prior to the election, working for Atiku.
Yes.
And the sudden turnaround that happened overnight, that is now working for Tinubu against his former employer, it's one that is that action itself is as risky as what the president is doing currently. Because these are analysts of hand-to-mouth analysts of what I can eat or how do I find sustenance or survival. It's still tied to the reckless, the reckless dementia that poverty brings to the human spirit. I mean, the handlers, he's trying to defend what, accepting part of it and defending the other. I've not seen any part where what Tinubu, I mean, there is no reasonable commentary I've seen that can actually impeach what Tinubu, the pastor said, Bakare. No one has given us an objective impeachment of that perspective, that establishment. He has established, he has said everything as it is, unedited, black and white. It's left for this government to pick it and change the narrative. But as you know, they lack the character and humility to take correction. And that is the doom of this government. Instead of the handlers to go to him and say, this is summary of what we took as notes. This and this and this is what we can do immediately. This and this and this is what we can do in the long term. They will not. They will just come out and say, they will start to attack the person, not the message. They will start to attack the person, Tunde Bakare. But we know that in fact, we don't even need Tunde Bakare to come and tell us about the state of the nation. We are all actors. We are all on stage. We are witnesses to the decay, to the breakdown and everything.
But speak to us on the issue of hypnotism of the followership, especially for people who are on the side of President Bola Tinubu, possibly repositioning the country, and they would stake their neck to the fact that he is doing the right thing, which is synonymous to what the MAGA people in the United States of America are doing with the trade tariff, totally suffocating the economy. Agriculture is dying. Lots of things is just, crumbling. But the MAGA, they are still very optimistic that President Donald Trump is doing a wonderful job. Speak to us on hypnotism. What do you think is the cause of this? Is it that these people do not feel the pain, or they are so immune that they, even when they feel the pain, they pretend not to feel the pain?
No, whatever you do in this life, you must have followers. Whether you're doing the wrong thing or the right things, you have followers. Okay? But for the MAGA, if you compare them with the Nigerians, the difference is that for those following Tinubu, all he needs to do is to guarantee their meal, their sustenance. Not to become wealthy or whatever. To guarantee what they will eat morning, afternoon, and evening. Once that is done, those ones, they don't care about any other thing. Or where they are getting small money from. If that is guaranteed, they will praise him and ensure that they support him to the high heavens. Many of them who are even supporting him are not getting anything. They're not getting anything. But they just cannot see themselves oppose him. Irrespective of what he's doing. They cannot come to that reality to find themselves opposing Tinubu. So they will rather keep supporting him, whether he's doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And that is how it is. Okay? So, but the truth is that it will affect everyone. The decisions of government will affect everyone, whether those supporting or those dissenting. It will affect everyone. Everyone will be affected. And that's exactly what is going on. You go to, there's They showed one of the malls, I think it was ShopRite Abuja or something, where online, where you go there and they're about to shut that place down because there's no patronage.
Yes.
I was discussing with my sister yesterday, who's a nurse. She said that people no longer come for treatment. That all their hospital do now is major operations. When there's operation, the hospital will make money. But when there's no operation, nobody's coming for any treatment, any malaria, anything. That people are just carrying it. They'll go to chemists, self-medicate. You know, that is what disempowerment will do. Just watch now. You see that there will be more breakdown in the health of Nigerians between this period and the next 5 years. More people will have to die. More people will have terminal ailments. More people will have ailments they are supposed to treat, you know, malaria they are supposed to treat with less than 7,000 naira. They will go and buy cheap drugs, self-medicate with fake drugs, cheap fake drugs. And because they cannot afford it, these are things they could afford before. So there's a way leadership trickles down to decisions of government, trickles down to all your decisions. Your actions and inactions is affected by policies. And that's why policies are very important, that they must be the right policies at all times. Otherwise, it will affect people. Already we have high mortality rates before now. Before now, have high mortality rate. Now, people are self-medicating while they are pregnant. Okay? So, will this not escalate the already bad condition? When we're supposed to have policies, public health care that will de-escalate the high mortality rates, maternal mortality rates. So, these are issues. When you put them together, you see how it also not just affecting the economy, it's affecting education, it's affecting migration. People are moving more, leaving the country hopelessly to anywhere. I know people who moved to Gambia. And I was asking someone, we are going to Gambia to do what exactly? Because Nigeria is better. But they don't want to hear that. They just want to move to somewhere. Whether the consequences will be final, just move to somewhere other than Nigeria. People are moving in their droves to Togo, moving to, Gabon, and the rest of that.
Yes, because I even learned some Nigerians are even headed towards Burkina Faso, the same, military-inflicted country.
Yes,
and it's bad. Now speaking of the despair of Nigerians, and we can't say some of those things without calling out the enablers of some of the situation that we have today. And when we speak about enablers, Nigerians would only point hands to two pivotal subsets. Number one is INEC. Number two is judiciary. They say these two sets of people are those that have contributed to what we have today in Nigeria. Just before we get into that, let's even maybe include the National Assembly to the debate here. And I'd love you to maybe crystallize some of these things to really help us partition these subsets in category. Which do you think should be the biggest enabler to the situation we have today in Nigeria?
All subsets. First, you talk about INEC. They didn't do an objective job. INEC was partisan throughout the election. Partisan. They needed us to go to bed before they announced the winner of the election. And they took gratification, compromised the elections. Straightforward. The people too did a whole lot of that. In Lagos there was tribalism, vote buying, all kinds of things. People were disenfranchised. We were doing analysis, we were watching it going on. People were forced out of the queue where they were to vote and all that. In some areas where they voted dominantly for PDP, they were attacked in those areas, talking about going to the adverse party's stronghold to disrupt whatever is going on there. You know, you talk about the judiciary. Even though I will speak about P2B, even though the evidence they presented before couldn't have given them victory.
Really?
No.
So what was lacking in the list of evidences?
P2B did very well in the election. Very well.
Do you think he won?
But he didn't do well in the court. He was not, INEC announced Tinubu as the winner.
Okay.
He did very well in the election, but didn't do well in court. Because INEC also compromised the evidence. The quantum of evidence that we ought to have presented before the court were tainted by INEC. And we saw it now. I mean, when we were doing this analysis then, I said, with this proof that P2B have, we cannot get the court to declare anything in his favor. You cannot. It was played out of the game of politics to the point where the adverse party used the umpire to not just defeat him, but to also make it impossible for evidence to be proved. Because if INEC had been neutral, the evidence to fight that case would have been stronger. It would have been stronger. Yes, it would have been stronger. But the court didn't act. The court didn't act outside what was before it, because Obi didn't even have enough. How many witnesses did they call? The defendant called me with one person. Call Kwame Bamidele. He's the only witness of the respondent. You know, and at the end of the day, what happened? All that happened in all the beavers, the decisions INEC took against, suddenly the beavers stopped working and all that, all those dishonesty.
But does it mean that the court has no right over INEC just to ensure that there's transparency in helping the court provide evidence?
Yeah, you see, when it comes to evidence, it is not the court that provides evidence, it's the litigants. Yeah, the court can issue orders for you to release documents, or you make application or discovery of documents, and ordinarily an umpire is supposed to provide all those evidence once they are applied for. Provide it. But we saw blood documents that you cannot see what is written, and are all dumped on the court. How will the court manage such? You understand? Because you need to speak to the evidence, and you are speaking to an empty paper. You can't see what is there. INEC was all about the place, making a mess of the whole system. So Nigerians who say that the INEC, the court, the whatever, they are not lying. Okay. The only thing I need to point out for that of the court was INEC made it impossible for the court to work the way it ought to work. Now we cannot say whether the court have the moral will to declare Obi the winner, especially when the court now have excuse to say, see the evidence. You understand? You see, the court is not going to declare Obi winner based on empathy, or based on sentiment, or based on the fact that people from the south east have not led the country, or from newspaper artists you read in newspaper, or opinion. No. The court will do that on the evidence. Did he win the election? He won it, and his mandate was taken away and given to another person. How many states did he win? How many local governments did he win but was not given declared victory? The returning officers of those local governments, where are the evidence? Where is the... So it's beyond just saying he won. Because once there's an election petition, once it gets to court, whoever wins at the field does no longer matter. Whoever win or lost at the field does no longer matter. It's been challenged. If you have victory in the field, it's been challenged in the court. We saw it in Kano. The tribunal declared APC the winner, right? And the tribunal. The Court of Appeal did the same thing. The Supreme Court turned it around. And it's based on what was before the Supreme Court.
Really?
Yes.
Or not? Or was it because of what they felt might be a boomeranging effect if the Supreme Court had done what the appeal and...
no, it was not. It was not. Okay, you're talking about the protests and all.
Yeah, the protests, seeing and escalating...
The protests couldn't have deterred the court.
Really?
The protest cannot... You see, the only thing that can move the hand of the court is evidence, not protest.
Even if the protest might totally envelope the situation.
No, but the truth of the matter is that he actually won that election.
Yes,
it was stolen. It was a stolen victory. That's that. And even if the fear of violence, even if you want to say the fear of violence influenced the decision itself was a good decision because the party won. Yes. So and before violence can build up that way. Before violence can build up that way, the people they actually know what they saw. They know who they voted. And before their very eyes, you are turning it around. You understand? So, I mean, if they were doing all that just to force victory, if their candidate actually lost and they are doing all those violence to force victory, the Supreme Court will not give them that latitude. It was because they actually won that election. So, and it went the way it went. But even if you look at the evidence presented, it was overwhelming. The tribunal overlooked it. The Court of Appeal overlooked it. Compare it with what will be presented. Obi's case is that of the case of looking up to the high heavens for want of evidence. The court's hands were tied. They know they could do. The court is not going to descend to the arena of conflict. You think all the judges there, all the judges there that prefer Tinubu to lead Nigeria. Couldn't have been that. But it's not what they prefer, it's what is before them. It's a tough job. It's a very tough job. That's why I suggested that Nigerians should be enlisted into the Supreme Court to look at documents during election tribunal and let them make their own decision, just like the jury system. Let them see what was presented and say, truly, it will be that have victory. Or can they pronounce it? You know what it takes to do that? If they look at, because you don't come close. When you come close, your perspective will change.
The complexity in all this actually very
perspective will change.
But let's take a look at the man of the moment, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Maybe I still need to have the opportunity of studying leadership style and why leaders behave in some sort of way and not the other way. But taking a look at President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his agenda, and maybe, if possible, compare it to leaders that have led their country in the past. What do you think is the agenda of this man? Because lots of people are complaining so much, even from his own group. They are not happy, but he is adamant.
Yeah, what do you think is... I doubt whether he has any agenda. I doubt. In my place, we say Chidika Chana. What it means is that if we keep saying there's still daytime, we'll see after, before you know it, there'll be nightfall. He's not conscious of time. Anybody leading the 21st century that is not pulling people out of poverty, they're not pulling people out of poverty, but dragging people into poverty in a large scale, cannot say he's leading the people at all.
What if he doesn't see it as dragging people to poverty?
That is, he's obscured. That's obscurantism. It's obscured. So if it's obscured, it means that he does not have the temperament of leadership. Why do we rate China so high and their leadership? So it's because they are pulling people out of poverty. Keep consistently. People who were poor 3 years ago, you come back 3 years after, they are now employers of labor. That's leadership. That's what they are saying. And those ones who are employers are pulling others. Before you know it becomes auto, you understand? A model that will take, you are not pulling people out of poverty. You are not building infrastructure. You are not working on the economy. Inflation is now 21%, 24, right?
Yes.
24% or thereabouts. Okay. So you are not doing all the necessaries. People are not able to feed. They are not able to have medical care. What exactly have you provided for them since you got into office with all your wrong policies and decisions that took over whatever they had before you came? When people's lives deteriorate after your emergence as a leader, you are not a leader. You have not led right. That's why their life is deteriorating. It's that simple. It's simple economics. Okay? Before you came, I was buying fuel for 160, 190, 200. And now I have to buy it 900, 800. You understand? Rice, look at those staples. Just compare them. You see, leadership you have to make sure that people's lives are not going backward. That's the only point we can say you are leading. But if you are leading and people's lives are deteriorating, you are not leading anywhere. You are not. It's that simple. It doesn't matter what people say that all over the world there's global this, global that. It's not true. It's not true. The prices of things that I know, staples, in the US for the past 3 years have not really changed that much. Even when they are having an economic crisis that is propelled by Donald Trump, the prices of things are still considerably the way they were. Is that not a country? So why is it that ours is different? You know, things are out of reach. The people have no disposable income. And then you are traveling. You are building houses, renovating this and that, budgeting money for purposes that are not directly empowering the people. So we cannot continue like this. It shouldn't return again. It's just because we don't even have a National Assembly. By now, you've been talking about the president's impeachment. That is what we need to be talking about. His impeachment for gross misconduct. You know, if it were not for the impeachment, the state of emergency, it should have been on the fact that under his watch, the lives of Nigerians have deteriorated. That's gross misconduct. He should be impeached on the basis of that, so that we can have a change in this. We will slope from one misfortune to the other, one despair to another. Many people are homeless as we speak. You know, you can't even go to a function, drive to a function without being taxed. Some of them want to even forcefully collect money from you, and the rest of that. So the society has become a very risky one. And nobody, Tunde Bakare laid a very fantastic foundation on this issue, on his broadcast, that there's a need for a total change of direction. Okay, you cannot turn the National Assembly to whatever you have made it, employing motor park administration to turn Nigeria upside down. You know, and use your influence to get the National Assembly to approve your whims and caprices, using extra constitutional means to deploy governance in the country. It can't work.
Very, very true. It's actually a very sad one for Nigerians. And given the importance of opinion leaders in Nigeria like Tunde Bakare, I think there's a clarion call for other opinion leaders from the church, from the mosque, from civil society organizations, and other people should speak up to this issue, because we cannot continue this way. We have all other countries that started with us, but of course we are no longer, at the same level. A very good example is Singapore. We have it here. That Singapore, the country with the highest number of millionaires. It said that 1 in 5 person in Singapore right now is a millionaire. Singapore has the fastest internet connection in the world. It has the second best airline in the world. It is the first country in the world to teach maths and science, and it has the highest level of education in the world. This is the same Singapore that came to us in 1979 to come, beg for, improved seedlings in Nigeria, but they are far away from us. So this is a clarion call for everyone to ensure that Nigeria works well and works better for everybody. Thank you so very much, President Fansufeli.
It's my pleasure.
For being here. All right, that's just the time we have for today, Easter Monday. I'd love to believe you enjoyed your holidays, which of course continued today. But right here on Enterprise Television, we are right here to give you updates on everything happening in Nigeria and across the globe. But please do well to visit us if you may. You can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early. Bye-bye.